This is Utkarsh Ahuja with Chamath Palihapitiya, VP of Product Marketing at Facebook, brought to you by TiEcon Live. Welcome, Chamath.
Thank you.
How are you doing?
Great.
Well, you just gave a very impactful and insightful speech, and I think a lot of people are raving about it, and we have the pleasure of having you here today, so thank you.
Welcome.
So you are in the hot seat today, and
I was. It was actually a great opportunity because, I think what we were trying to get across today was just the fact that so many people, I think, especially when you're in Silicon Valley, want to be an entrepreneur, want to start a company. And I think in many ways for so many people, it's like a maze of things and barriers that you just have to navigate and get over.
Sure.
And I think that now the bar is much lower. And I think many of us are innovating so that so many others can come after us and actually create great businesses. And so just having an opportunity to tell that story for us was just really important.
Right. If you can describe for our viewers, what do you see as the next big wave in social networking and how Facebook is headed in that direction?
So I think what is happening is that, there are like 2 or 3 probably really large social networking companies that are being built right now. And I think what's going to happen, though, is not necessarily that there's going to be some next generation of social networking company that wins, but there's going to be a next generation of social companies that win. And I think what it means to be social will be a combination of a few things. I think that you're going to see companies build their own standalone experiences on the web. You're going to see them build within existing environments like Facebook.
Right.
But I think what you're going to see is that they're all going to be weaved together. And there's going to be this seamless experience and interoperability across these sites.
Right.
That it's going to really define this next category of company. And our job is, frankly, to build the pipes, to build the platform, and to build the technology to enable that to happen. So that some entrepreneur sitting somewhere in the world will have a great idea and be able to launch the website, launch an application, connect the two together, and just meaningfully change the landscape.
It's a seamless landscape,
yeah,
essentially.
Absolutely.
So where would you consider we are in the whole wave of social media? And where are we in the timeline, so to speak? There was the whole internet wave, and it went through various different points in evolution. Where are we today?
I think we're probably in the 2nd or 3rd inning. I mean, I think the thing is that we've done a great job in eliminating the most obvious barriers. So hardware costs are dramatically lower, software costs are dramatically lower. But I still think that the user experiences, I think we're still scratching the surface on the most profound versions of those things. And so over the next decade or 2, I think you're going to see some amazing experiences that we've never seen before, that completely change the rules, that transcend devices, that transcend websites. And that's probably going to be the definition of the new internet company.
Sure.
Something that doesn't necessarily exist within the 4 walls of a site or a .com domain, but exists in mobile, exists on the web, exists in the television, and does that in a really seamless and powerful way.
There's been a lot of talk about there's a lot of talk in the world today about social media being a potential fad, and the need for monetizing social media. And how is Facebook coping with this challenge and ensuring that it takes Facebook to the next generation?
Yeah, so I think that the easiest and the most honest answer is that we're taking a long-term view. And what I mean by that is that we believe that social media is not a fad. So let me give you an example. Over this last year, we saw this amazing thing happen where a few students in Colombia wanted to protest against this terrorist group called the FARC. They created a group on Facebook. Their friends found out about it. Those people joined. They discussed it. They had a debate about it. And then they picked a day where they wanted to basically go out to the streets and protest. And you had hundreds of thousands of people appear in 70 or 80 cities around the world to protest.
Right.
Now, that to me is a profound and deep example of social media at work. There's another example where a friend of mine wanted to raise money for breast cancer awareness. She created a group, she created a fundraiser, she told all her friends about it, their friends told their other friends, and next thing you know, she was able to raise thousands of dollars.
I think I may have seen that one too.
And so that's, again, social media at work. So I think what's happening is that these deep experiences are now occurring and being created. Our job is to facilitate that.
Right.
And with respect to the monetization of it, it'll happen in an appropriate way that's appropriate for the user, appropriate for the content, appropriate for the brands. There'll be lots of experimentation. I think in the next 10 to 15 years, you'll find a very predictable model of it. But the thing is, things that are truly great aren't invented in days. It takes a while. It takes iteration. It takes focus.
Sure.
And that's what we're going to do. And along the way, as long as you see these great proof points, then we know that social media is anything but a fad, something that's very fundamental, and the monetization of it will happen in due time.
How has Facebook coped with the challenges of initially beginning as a college, catered towards college students, and now the market segmentation is essentially anyone on the planet?
Right.
And how has coped with some of the challenges in helping to form those kind of communities and have different sorts of experiences for different sorts of users?
This is a very good question. It was one of these things, and I think it's still a thing that we're doing today, which is actually really difficult, and I'll tell you why. So before we had, a site that was just meant for college students, or then just for colleges and high school students. And then it was an English site that was frankly available to everybody. Right. And now over the last few months, it's a site that's available to everyone and increasingly in many languages. Right. And over the next month or two, we'll probably have 23, 24 languages. Okay. And as we do that, we find a couple of things. The first is that the nuances of the product do really transcend cultures and geography and language. So the idea that your friends want to stay connected to you is something that's universal, irrespective of language, religion, culture, etc. Right. But at the same time, there are also things that we need to do appropriately, which is that, for example, translating the site in Spanish is actually not enough. Because what you find is that in Spain, there are actually 4 variants of Spanish that actually need to be, thoughtfully brought to market. And those types of small things that are very profound in implication are the things that we now need to solve in order to make ourselves broadly applicable. Right. And as we do that, we are actually being rewarded with more users and more usage. But it's a really difficult thing because it takes time. And you have to be very modest and humble about the fact that you probably don't know what's best for the Afghani user. Sure. And so you should let the Afghani user tell you what's appropriate for them, et cetera, et cetera. And that applies writ large for the entire world. Right.
So do you see any holes within, as you mentioned some of the challenges and so forth, and are there is Facebook open to, there's certain holes that it identifies within the whole space, and we're in an entrepreneurial community. There are a lot of startups in the social media space. Yeah. Is Facebook open to potentially plugging in a startup into Facebook through an acquisition or so forth?
I think acquisitions are things that we will look at. I don't think it's anything that we're against. In fact, we've done a couple of them. The most recent one being Parakeet, which was the acquisition of a company that was building an interface between client experience on the desktop and a web experience, founded by one of the key principles behind Firefox, or 2 of the key principles behind Firefox. But more generally speaking, the way that we are hoping that we're bringing innovation to bear is not through the acquisition of startups, but via the platform. And it's not just the platform now within Facebook, because via Facebook Connect and through other mechanisms, the components that we're building and the capabilities that we're building are available to you on your own domain and on your own website. And so I think our hope is that with these tools, we're going to give you a runway where you're going to build a huge business. Right. And we want to see companies that are massively successful.
What are the sorts of things that motivate you, that make you tick, that make you want to grab the bull by its horns?
So when I actually started at Facebook, I sort of addressed the 100 or so, 200 or so employees at the time, and I said, in my career I've been really lucky, but I've never been with a company built to last. What I meant by that was, I was involved in a company called Spinner.com, which was really doing some innovative stuff in streaming music. Great product, but after its acquisition by AOL, kind of went to the wayside. Right. I was involved in an amazing media player company called Winamp, which I think at that time transformed the landscape of music. Sure. But again, after the acquisition by AOL, again in that case, didn't really thrive. Right. And what I wanted to do, and what makes me tick, is just being involved with amazing entrepreneurs who are trying to change the world, who are trying to build something that will be truly long-lasting. And I really feel lucky because I think for the first time in at least my career, I'm part of a company that I really believe is being built to last.
That's great.
And it's not just going to be a product that stands the test of time, but it's going to be people and a legacy. And that to me is really important. And so that's really the most important thing that makes me tick every day.
Well, so there's legacy and inspirational.
Yeah.
Well, that's great. Well, thank you very much. It's been definitely a pleasure. This has been Utkarsh Ahuja with Chamath, VP of Product Marketing at Facebook. You can watch further interviews on myTiEcon.org.